Happy Sunday to everybody. Thank you for joining me. You are now listening to The Vault XL. Thank you, Chris Thorne's show, for joining me. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend. Please check out Chris Thorne's channel. He has information pertaining to Miss Weems and this diabolical story of her husband allegedly molesting children in a daycare that she owned, also with a partner. I'm going to bring you information from the past, and then we're going to go forward to her speaking to the news about the reason why she shot her husband. Thank you for joining me.
Shantieri Weems' supporters were hoping she would walk out of this courthouse a free woman. Instead, she will be spending at least another 36 months in prison.
Very, very disappointed.
Dozens of supporters had packed the courtroom to tell the judge Shantieri Weems was a good woman caught in an unthinkable situation. Last July, she was confronted by a mom at her Little Kids Castle daycare in Baltimore County and told her husband had been abusing the woman's daughter.
And it wasn't until that moment that she knew for sure that those children were telling the truth and her husband was lying.
Police eventually charged James Weems with molesting 4 kids, boys and girls, 9, 10, and 11 years old, in the daycare van. Shantieri Weems went to the Mandarin Oriental Hotel in D.C., where James Weems was staying, and shot him in the throat and in the leg, permanently maiming him.
I cannot begin to imagine when the person that you trust most in the world has not only violated your trust, has destroyed your business, and also violated children.
Prosecutors offered Shantieri Weems a plea deal, 2 years for aggravated assault and carrying a pistol without a license. But Judge Michael O'Keefe rejected that as too lenient, doubling the sentence to 4 years in prison.
She was stunned. She's obviously in tears. She's upset. She thought that in a worst case scenario, she'd be doing 2 years today.
I am outraged. I mean, I cannot believe it. I was sure that she'd be walking out with us today, and she should be.
Shantieri Weems' lawyer says he is still trying to determine if he has any grounds to appeal this sentence. At D.C. Superior Court, Bruce LaShan, WUSA 9.
Sorry about that. It jumped on before I could adjust the volume. Once again, WUSA 9 is the source. This is pertaining to Miss Shantieri Weems. She shot her husband at a hotel where he was doing security work. Under the information she got from law enforcement, they were investigating her husband at the time. She shut down the daycare, and this was her revenge response, however you like to word it. Do you believe she deserves the 4 years? Do you believe she even deserved the 2 years? Should she appeal? We know that appeals take time. By the time she continues to appeal, she may be already free from the 4-year sentence. Should she have gotten any time in jail or prison for shooting her husband? I have very strong opinions about this subject matter. As I've told you time and time again, that anyone can be pushed to do anything, be it something said to you out of the way, something done to you out of the way. And this is a very diabolical case because this is her name, this is her reputation. So it's more than just her reputation, her business. Mainly the children were molested, but this is still her name. And she has to carry the burden of her name being in the street with this sinister acts, plural. Because who's to say people didn't think she was in on it or had knowledge that he was doing it? I brought you that information pertaining to the chief of police down in Memphis, that she aided a detective or whomever, police officer back in Atlanta for the same allegations against her husband. And that woman who is now the police chief of Memphis Police Department, she aided another officer in covering up allegations of child molestation. That's why she's no longer working for the Atlanta Police Department. She then went on to work in North Carolina and now Memphis, Tennessee. You see, there are people who will aid people in wrongdoing. So I want you to remember that. So I want to ask you, do you believe she deserved time, Miss Weems? Should she have gotten probation? Well, I hope she doesn't, Chris. I hope she doesn't do the entire 4 years. Because I understand naturally and biblically and lawfully, you're not supposed to put your hands on people and exact revenge. But as I said, we're all flawed. We all can be pushed. And once again, as I said, I don't think people understand the severity of the case. You're talking about touching children, violating children, raping children, and then this is her reputation in the community as a trusted figure dealing with kids. She would have been ruined after this. So you don't know how things can turn out. Because a person could say, well, I had no knowledge of this. I didn't know what they were doing. But you may have people who may say, yeah, you did. How I know you didn't know? How I know you weren't touching the children? See, it goes deeper than just allegations against the husband. Things found on his cell phone from detectives. It's perception. And everyone's perception is not the same. Let's go ahead and dive into this information. Maryland woman accused her husband of molesting kids gets 4 years for shooting him. Shantieri Weems shot her husband, James Weems, a retired Baltimore police officer. Even worse, he's a former cop. At a luxury hotel in D.C. last year. This was uploaded February 3rd. A Maryland woman will spend 4 years behind bars for shooting her husband at a D.C. luxury hotel last year. A judge handed down the sentence in D.C. courtroom Friday. Furious supporters stormed out of the courthouse after D.C. Superior Court Judge Michael O'Keefe doubled the sentence Shantieri Weems' lawyers had worked out in a plea deal with the U.S. Attorney's Office. Very, very disappointed, said Teresa Hadida, a childhood friend. Shantieri Weems shot her husband, James Weems, in late July 2022 in the formerly named Mandarin Oriental Hotel in Southwest, now known as the Salamander, D.C. She accused her husband, a retired Baltimore police officer, of molesting children at her daycare business. She pleaded guilty to 2 charges related to shooting back in July. Prosecutors recommended a 2-year sentence for aggravated assault and a gun charge. Judge O'Keefe called that recommendation too lenient, given that Weems had brought a gun into the district illegally and shot her husband with premeditation and the intent to maim him. Shantieri Weems' lawyer, Tony Garcia, said Weems thought she would be facing a maximum of two more years in prison and possibly much less. She was stunned, Garcia said. She was obviously in tears. She's upset. She thought in the worst case she'd be looking at another 2 years. Jolene Ivey, a Prince George's County Council member, former candidate for Maryland Lieutenant Governor, and the wife of Representative Glenn Ivey, Democrat of Maryland, had been in the courtroom to support Weems. I am outraged. I cannot believe it, Ivy said. I was sure she'd be walking out with us today, and she should be, quote unquote. Baltimore County Police have charged James Weems with molesting 4 children, boys and girls, ages 9, 10, and 11 years old. I was supposed to protect those children, Shantieri Weems said in a tearful statement to the court Friday. My husband was supposed to help me protect those kids. I bear so much guilt because the person I chose to love and trust turns out to be the one the kids needed protecting from, quote unquote. Multiple D.C. police officers responded to Mandarin Oriental, located at 1330 Maryland Avenue Southwest, around 7:40 p.m. on July 21st, 2022, after reports of a man being shot on the 8th floor. Hotel management informed officials that initially they had a fire alarm go off in that room, and they went to check. They saw blood on the wall. When the officers arrived at the hotel room, Shantieri Weems began to talk to them through the door. Officers said they asked Weems to come out so they could assist the man that was shot. But she then allegedly informed them that she would shoot herself if they came into the room. As the conversation continued through the door, and the officers tried to confirm if it was a shooting victim, Shantieri Weems allegedly yelled, "He's a child molester." Police said James Weems then told officers through the door that he was shot in the leg. After the confirmation, officers went into the room at 8:11 p.m. to treat James Weems and detain his wife, according to court documents. While detained, Shantieri Weems told police she had been married to the man she shot for 5 years and that they lived together in Baltimore. She said that numerous children at her daycare business recently told her he had been molesting them. Shantieri Weems said she reported her husband to Baltimore authorities. In the courtroom Friday, Prosecutors shared a PowerPoint presentation of the case details to give the judge context of the shooting, saying they believe the case was about more than just the shooting that occurred. Prosecutors said Shantieri Weems first learned of the allegations against her husband about 3 days before the shooting. The next day, she spent the night with her husband at the Mandarin Oriental and then came back on July 21st to shoot him. The PowerPoint presentation showed text messages from Shanteari Weems to her friends in which she told several people she loved them and apologized. This isn't a case where information was thrown up her the day of the shooting, the prosecuting attorney said. In addition to the details leading up to the shooting, the prosecution also shared body-worn camera footage of the moments after the shooting. Officers are seen in the hallway of the hotel shouting through the door. Shanteari Weems is heard saying repeatedly, "We're fine," and telling officers not to come in. In recommending their sentence, the prosecution recognized that Shanteari Weems had no criminal history before the shooting. Defense attorneys for Shanteari Weems said the shooting happened because the switch flipped once she learned of the accusations against her husband, and she was overcome. According to the defense, a mother of one of the abused children told Shanteari Weems the abuse happened in a daycare transport van. The guilt came crashing down on her. The defense said she was under the crushing guilt of feeling that she had let these children down. The defense also pointed to the fact that since the shooting, Shanteari Weems has cooperated with law enforcement in the case against her husband. During sentencing, Judge O'Keefe said there needs to be serious consequences for her actions. O'Keefe eventually handed down a sentence of 48 months in prison for the assault charge and 20 months in prison for the gun charge to be served at the same time. Garcia said they are looking at the possibility of appeal. WUSA 9 is the source of this information. Thank you so much, Chris. Please check out Chris Thorne's show, who has done a live stream pertaining to this very diabolical story. So, 48 months, if you divide it up, 12 times 4, that's 48 months. That's alone the assault charge. 20 months, I believe is what they said for the gun. So she would have been looking at more than 4 years. Do you believe the sentence is accurate for the crime itself? Whether she texted the people or not, she had time to think about it or not. Yes, she did. Yes, she did. Of course she did. But that's the thing about premeditation. You can think about something in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. They will still throw the book at you and say, well, you had time to think about it. But as I said, you were not in her shoes to carry the burden. And we know you're not supposed to put your hands on people, touch people, hurt their things, their property. But as I said, people pop off. And this woman probably saw her whole life flash in front of her. Dear God, the children, dear God, what's going to happen to me? What if they sue me? Naturally, they would sue her. Why would they not? Why would the parents not sue her? Whether they liked her or not, it doesn't matter. Those are their children. And their children come first. So whatever type of relationship somebody had with her friend, their child goes to the daycare, neighbor, all bets are off because the children are first. She is secondary. Husband secondary. Oh, I thought I knew you. Knew of your husband. But you are irrelevant because my child is first. And she knew that. She knew that when they came to her, the detectives. That whoever I am to these people, that may be no longer. Because I thought I knew my husband. So the outsider will view me the same. Well, I thought I knew her. How do I know she's not involved? How do I know she ain't been touching the kids or had other workers touching my child? You see, it goes deeper than just the child molestation allegations. This is somebody's reputation. And this is a very dicey subject matter still today, modern day, touching and raping of children. And nobody has to believe your version. You didn't know nothing. You didn't do nothing. Because we've learned about child molestation and rape where people do have knowledge. Parents have knowledge of people touching and raping their children. They're up assaulting their children and nobody does anything, and there's knowledge. And we know this from people coming forward many years later telling their story as a rape victim. Everybody knew, she knew, brothers, sisters knew, auntie knew, grandmama knew, but they still kept the predator around the children. So this is a very diabolical situation. So nobody can say how she should have felt because you're not in her shoes. You don't know what could happen. Somebody could have walked up to her, blew her brains out. Hey, you with the shit too. Shoot you. See, you don't know because you don't know people. Just like she didn't know her husband, allegedly. And the people who got their children there, they don't know her or her husband. Daycare workers. See, because you're putting faith in man, woman, to do right by you and your child. Just the way you do with random people daily. Now imagine 5 years of marriage to this man. She don't even know who the hell she's been sleeping with. So now we got to ask that question. Were there signs that something was off with her husband during the relationship? Did she have any knowledge of any improprieties as a person, period? And the fact that he's also a former cop, that's even worse. And I'm also going to bring you commentary of a man speaking of being a Marine, which is the stupidest thing I ever heard. What we don't do. Well, he did it, so what? You speak for yourself what I as a Marine would not do. But you can't speak of another Marine molesting kids. Oh, because you knew him. No, you mean you thought you knew him. You didn't know Mr. Weems, sir. Because his own wife didn't know him. And I don't know how long she dated him before marrying him. But if we're to believe her version that she had no knowledge of this man being a child molester, then that means she spent years with a man she had no idea is a sadist. And that goes for you, Pookie, Ray Ray, and whomever you didn't know Mr. Weems. Because there's no such thing as knowing people. We're all flawed. We're all sinners. We're all fornicators. May not be rapists. May not be child molesters. But we're tainted. And that's the bottom line. Thank you for joining me. You're now listening to the Vault XL. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $sign began to 129 Cash App. All stickers and chats are welcome during the live stream. Thank you for my visitors in the chat. Thank you, Mr. Chris Thorns, who's currently listening in. Thank you so much for your diligent work for the children. Chris Thorns is an advocate for the children. Please check out his channel and his community board. Let's dive into the allegations against Mr. Weems. How police found out about a daycare bus driver accused of sexually abusing children. This was uploaded 7 months ago. WMAR2 News is the source. Thank you for your time. We're in a wicked world.
So far, investigators say 3 children from the Little Kids Castle daycare suffered sexual abuse in one form or another by 57-year-old James Weems Jr. But standing outside the Baltimore County District Courthouse, a friend and fellow Marine, Donald Jones, says he just doesn't believe it.
We are Marines. We have honor. We protect. We don't take advantage. We don't abuse. I don't believe these charges are true.
If children had been suffering in silence at the hands of Weems, that silence was broken in early July when a family of a 10-year-old girl caught her watching porn videos on an electronic tablet. According to charging documents, the alleged victim told police Mr. James from her daycare had showed her how to access the site, and she went on to describe sex acts with him on the playground and on the daycare bus. Investigators later found evidence in the browsing history on Weems' cell phone of that same porn site, and ultimately a 7-year-old boy and a 12-year-old girl would both also share details of their alleged abuse by Weems.
We believe that Mr. Weems was a risk to public safety, a risk to the children that were named in the complaint, as well as others.
Let me go back here a little bit. Hold on.
If children had been suffering in silence at the hands of Weems, that silence was broken in early July when a family of a 10-year-old girl caught her watching porn videos on an electronic tablet. According to charging documents, the alleged victim told police Mr. James from her daycare had showed her how to access the site, and she went on to describe sex acts with him on the playground and on the daycare bus. Investigators later found evidence in the browsing history on Weems' cell phone of that same porn site, and ultimately a 7-year-old boy and a 12-year-old girl would both also share details of their alleged abuse by Weems.
We believe that Mr. Weems was a risk to public safety, a risk to the children that were named in the complaint, as well as others. There was information that was provided to me.
A judge denied bail for Weems, who's also a former Baltimore City police officer, after prosecutors say 93 children would have come into contact with him during his 4 years at the center, and each of them now have to be interviewed. His wife, Shantieri, owns the daycare and allegedly shot her husband twice in a D.C. hotel after learning of the alleged abuse.
I've been with these folks recently, and I've heard none of this. None of this. And I'm floored. And just in total shock when all this stuff went down.
In Baltimore County, Jeff Hager, WMAR 2 News.
I'm shocked. I was with these people recently. So what's your point? What is your point, sir? Who cares? Who cares that you were with them recently? At the time of this filming, this news interview, you're a Marine, he's a Marine. So what? What's your damn point? You don't have a point. Because you're like a lot of people. You want to aid people because you like them. You're related to them. You work with them. Your favorite athlete, your favorite movie star, singer. Nobody cares. What the hell would a kid 9, 10 years old know about a sex act unless they participated or they watched it or both? The fact that their family member found the girl watching it or found it on her tablet. So now you've introduced a child to sex unnecessarily without permission, not your child. Now you got a child watching porn. The child now has memories of engaging in pornographic acts with an adult, old enough to be her damn granddaddy. So, sir, you want us to believe somebody planted the information on her tablet? You also want us to believe somebody put in her head to make up acts she did with a grown-ass man? I really shouldn't be bringing this content on a Sunday, because to me, this is a day, to rest. But I wanted to get it out of the way because I'm behind on information I've been wanting to bring you the past 2 weeks. So I wanted to get this story out of the way. But nonetheless, sir, did you hear the evidence? More than one child has come forward telling the lady of the daycare, hey, your husband's been touching us. Hey, he's been touching us on the playground, on the school bus. Hey, detectives have gone on his phone and found the website where he browsed. So you want us to believe what, sir? His wife went in his phone and picked up the porn site? So why would that same porn site be on a child's tablet? I'll wait. Exactly. Shantieri is just as lucky as well, because it's what I keep telling you people. Nobody has to wait for an explanation. Somebody could have easily walked in that daycare and shot that woman in cold blood and thought about the rest later, because people do it all the time. Waited on the husband, shot him cold. They're both lucky to be alive. Checkmate. I'm going to shoot first, and I'll hear the rest later. No child is going to make up being touched. It's not to say that it probably hasn't happened, but the fact that they have the web browser on both computers, that's enough for me. And if investigators don't find any improprieties within the family of the children, that somebody else has been touching these kids, molesting them, why are these 9 and 10-year-olds going to make up this black man touching them? to stop the nonsense. And see, this is what's wrong with the world right here. Serious crimes, allegations of a crime, and we know you're supposed to go to court to be proven innocent. But when it comes to children, I just can't see a bunch of different kids making that up. And it's not to say that we don't have some clever-minded kids, deviant kids. But when you start talking about computers, cell phones, that shows your nature because that's what you're looking up. That's what you're curious about. And you're not going to be able to explain a grown 57-year-old man having the web browser to the same porn site that one of the kids had on her tablet. What are the odds? Shantieri has decided to speak to the news about why she shot her husband. You're entitled to your opinion pertaining to her shooting her husband. If it was just she spazzed out, was revenge, she was going to take her own life. I don't even dwell on the fact that she wanted to kill herself. Maybe she did. Because she knew she would be in a losing scenario considering the allegations against her husband. Naturally, the families would sue her daycare. She would possibly be bankrupt. Where was she going to work? Where was she going to go? What type of business was she going to do after this? Her name ruined, reputation ruined. As I told you, the rabbit hole is deeper than just the allegations of somebody being molested, children being molested. This woman has to be able to sustain herself and prove her own innocence. Hello? Who wants to deal with you after this? Hey, you didn't know your husband. Hey, you don't know your workers. Hey, where are you? And all this stuff is going on. Oh, I wasn't there. This was on the school bus, the playground. And the brazenness of this man to grope and touch children in a public setting such as a playground. What the hell? Touching a child in public, really? So then you have to ask yourself about the van. How many children were on the van? A total of 93 children came in his custody or rim while at the daycare for 4 years. Now they got to interview, or they did, I'm sure at that time, 90-something kids. Imagine that. Imagine how long he's been a child molester. Checkmate. Damn near 60 years old. How long has he been touching kids? Has he touched other children? Does he have children? Did he molest any of his children? Does he have grandchildren? Did he molest any of his grandchildren? You see how deep the rabbit hole goes. He was also a cop. Uh-oh. We ain't gonna touch that. Was he a dirty cop? You're a dirty human, so you'd be a dirty cop too. Checkmate. What was he doing while he was walking the beat? Yeah. Got your mind wandering now. See, there's probably a whole lot more to Mr. Weems than being just old nasty bird. Now you got to ask what the hell he was doing while he was a cop. And we now realize he likes boys and girls, so he's what? Bisexual. Uh-oh. Stop it, Queen. Do you see how deep the hole has gotten? Let's hear what Miss Weems has to say about her motive for shooting her husband. Thank you for joining me. One second. Fox 5, Washington, D.C. is the source. This content was uploaded 3 months ago. This is pertaining to Miss Weems pleading guilty. And then we will go into the interview that she gave the news of her motive. Thank you all so much for joining me. Fox 5, Washington, D.C. is the source.
Jim and Marina, good evening. Today, inside a D.C. courtroom, Shantieri Weems pleaded guilty to aggravated assault and carrying a firearm in D.C. without a license. Now, back in July, we reported that Weems drove to the Mandarin Oriental, which is now known as the Salamander Hotel, to confront her husband, 57-year-old James Weems, who was staying there. Now, according to court documents, Shantieri runs a daycare in Owings Mills, Maryland. We're told parents of the kids at the daycare called Weems, accusing her husband, James, of molesting their children. While Weems wanted answers, so she went to his hotel room. We're told some kind of altercation took place before she shot her husband twice, sending him to the hospital. When police arrived to the scene, Weems told them it was self-defense. Detectives did find another gun in a safe that belonged to James Weems, a retired Marine and Baltimore police officer. Shantieri's attorney, Tony Garcia, says she takes accountability for bringing a loaded gun into D.C. without a proper permit, but she did fear that her life was in danger.
This was not an attempted murder. This was not something that was maliciously planned. This woman, the parents of these children came to her asking her about her husband, and this was an extremely highly emotional, toxic moment that she was going through. And so, yes, we're not going to get out of this unscathed, but we do feel as though she is an absolutely good person and was put in a horrible situation.
Now, Garcia says that Weems is in good spirits and is getting a lot of support from family and other female inmates. When it comes to James Weems, back in August, he was arrested on 13 charges, including third-degree sex offenses and sexual abuse of a minor. After his arrest, Fox 5 later found out that CPS did shut down the daycare several days before the shooting. Now, Shantieri Weems' next court date is on February 23rd for sentencing. Back to you guys.
Well, as you know, Miss Weems is currently in custody, serving out her time, possibly going to seek an appeal for the sentencing, 4 years in prison. We have a dirty cop molesting kids, driving a bus van for these children, being trusted with these kids. The daycare was not licensed, which is bad business for her because she could be cited by the city. Also, once again, as I said, sued by the parents that sent their children there to this daycare. I was thinking these were smaller children, but obviously not. I guess some type of care, for maybe it's after school care. I'm not really sure. It's bad. Because as I said, this is more, the top priority naturally are the children and the allegations. But this is her name, her reputation. She wasn't legally owning this place with a partner, so they both bear responsibility for this not being a licensed daycare. As you hear in this commentary, it was shut down by the city, and then she goes to this hotel. I thought he was there working, but as I've read your commentary, she was inside of a room when she shot him. So that means why would they be in a room if he was working? So now you hear in this commentary, he was staying there. She probably told him to get out of her house or leave their home, rather. I don't know who owned the house or apartment, whatever. And he's staying at this luxury hotel. So let's ask that. How did he afford the hotel room? Had he been staying there just when she confronted him about the allegations, or the police came around asking about the allegations? How long was the husband staying in this luxury hotel? I'm curious to know that, even though it's water under the bridge, but just curious. Was this malicious intent to kill Mr. Weems after finding out he allegedly molested children at her daycare, Shanteari? Does Shanteari have remorse? Does she feel bad about what she did to her husband? Did she intend to kill him? Was she thinking in her right frame of mind? Should she have this 4-year sentence? Should it be just 4 years probation, 2 years probation, supervised probation? Or she should have gotten 4 years? Or do some of you believe she should have gotten more years for shooting her husband? The fact that he's an ex-cop now in jail himself. Imagine that. He was out here supposed to be protecting and serving the community, and instead, he was out here touching people's kids. So now you got to ask yourself, did he ever sexually assault a man or a woman? What's the difference? Because you can't say, well, he only fancied children. Looks like to me he fancied everybody. He liked little boys, he liked little girls, and he also liked grown women. So you might as well go on and say he also liked grown men. Why not? Just a bigger version of a boy. Stay woke. Mr. Weems, are you a bisexual man? Because where you are right now, the playing field is most definitely even. In a male jail cell. Checkmate. Playtime is all yours now. So now you got to ask, what was he doing while he was married to Miss Weems? What was he doing when he wasn't married to her? Was he out here sexually assaulting men and women in the street? Also children. I told you the rabbit hole would be deeper than what's been alleged. Let's hear from Miss Weems. This is a bad, bad story here. Real bad. WUSA 9 is the source. Daycare owner jailed for shooting husband over alleged child abuse. Explains why.
The judge says Shanteari Weems took the law into her own hands. But she says she snapped, and some supporters see her as a kind of avenging angel, seeking justice for horrible crimes against children.
I was emotional.
Her backers were stunned last month when a judge slapped the 50-year-old with a 4-year sentence, twice what even prosecutors recommended in a plea deal.
Despite my surroundings, I'm doing okay. I have a lot of supporters and people who uplift me and help me survive.
Prosecutors have charged her husband, James Weems, with 33 counts of rape and child sex crimes. He's awaiting trial, and his lawyer is declining to comment.
Don't let them sweep this under the rug. The man is still alive. And
right from the start, the internet was filled with support for Weems under the hashtag #FreeShanteari. She shot her husband, a retired cop, twice in his room at what was then DC's Mandarin Oriental Hotel, where he was staying while providing security at the Urban League convention. The judge said her attack on her husband was premeditated, not spontaneous, that police had told her days earlier that they were investigating him, and they'd shut down her little kid's castle in Baltimore County while they looked into the allegations of child sexual abuse.
The only person I had to find out information from was my husband. And he kept saying he didn't do it.
And you believed him?
I did believe him.
But then, she says, the mother of one of the children, a child she'd loved and cared for years, said they had to talk.
I saw the pain in her face, and I knew that she was not lying. She finally said it was my husband.
You think about that child all the time?
All the time. I think about all the children all the time.
You felt this complete betrayal of trust?
I was totally broken. I felt like the blood had just drained out of my body because, again, this is my husband. I trusted him fully. He was supposed to help me protect these children. He always told me he was my protector. So when I heard this, I just felt like my world had just ended.
She took her first drink in 20 years, and according to prosecutors, texted her business partner, "I'm going to kill him and then myself." She drove to the hotel and angrily confronted him.
I snapped. I'm not a violent person. I was totally broken. I felt like the blood had just drained out of my body.
At first, Shanteari Weems says she did not believe the allegations that her husband, a former cop, had abused children at her daycare, Little Kids Castle.
We were both supposed to be on this crusade of saving children. And child molestation is something that we talked about all the time.
About how horrible it was.
How horrible it was, yes.
But then, the mother of one of the children, a child she had loved and cared for like her own, told her what the little one had told the police.
I saw the pain in her face, and I knew that she was not lying.
She had her first drink in 20 years. Prosecutors say she texted her business partner and friend, "I'm going to kill him, and then myself." And then she drove to DC's then Mandarin Oriental Hotel, where James Weems was working security at a conference, and she confronted him.
The situation was kind of like a fire. He was fuel, I was fuel. We poured that fuel in the fire, and it just blew up. We got to arguing, fussing, and one thing led to another.
How could you bring yourself to pull the trigger on your own husband?
I snapped. I'm not a violent person.
The first shot was in the neck.
Yes.
And then you shot him in the leg.
Yes.
So you had to think about it between those two shots, right?
No.
You didn't think about it?
No.
The judge made a lot of this issue. He suggested that you were out to intentionally maim and cause long-term pain to your husband.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you meant to do?
No.
You thought about killing yourself?
I did. I feel I let my family down. I feel I let my families, those kids down. I do. I think I just trusted the wrong person.
You said at the hearing that you were sorry.
I regret it.
Would you go so far as to apologize to your husband?
I would apologize to him when he apologized to those children.
Weems filed for divorce late last month. She has been cooperating with investigators who have charged her husband with molesting 4 different children, boys and girls, 9, 10, and 11 years old.
I think about all the children all the time.
And she hopes when she gets out of prison in about 4 years to start a nonprofit to fight child abuse.
And I'm definitely going to make a great batch of lemonade from these lemons that I've been dealt.
Weems' lawyer has just filed a motion asking the judge to reconsider her 4-year sentence. At the D.C. Department of Corrections, Bruce Lasham, WUSA 9.
Thank you for joining me. WUSA 9 is the source. If you need verification for any information that is of audio content, it is in the YouTube queue and on my community board. The article I read you has a source. I believe it's from Fox earlier. What do you say after this? She feels like she let her families down of the children. Operating a daycare with no license, as I said earlier, bad business. Naturally, she would be sued by these parents, other people who sent their children here. Citations by the city. Already a heavy burden to carry without even getting the prison sentence, jail sentence. Child molester. Hopefully he'll be found guilty with the information that's been gathered by detectives. How much time will he get? This is a very speedy trial for her because a lot of people get arrested for crimes and they don't go to trial for years. But I guess she decided to plead guilty, so that antes up the trial process. Get it over with. Especially if you know you're going to possibly do time. But what's the time fair for the allegations? Because a lot of child molesters don't get a lot of time in jail for their acts against children, even acts against women and men. Rape is one crime that people just don't get a lot of time for, be it statutory rape or another adult or raping another adult. And you hear it all the time. And that's why rapists usually become murderers, because they already know the game. If there's no one to tell, I can continue to keep raping. So I kill the victim. So he or she won't go to the police and describe me. Big facts. Ex-cop, African-American male, damn near 60 years of age, violating children, married man, working for a daycare, being in the possession of children, and a pedophile. Put that on paper. So as I said earlier, imagine what he was doing as a cop before he met Miss Shantieri. Has he been married before? Does he have children? Has he molested other children besides the children at the daycare? Does he have his own children? Has he ever molested his own kids? Will we find out there are other children lying in wait to spin the story? A man almost 60 years of age would lead you to believe he's probably been doing that for probably 30 years or more. So now you got to ask yourself, as I just said, how many other victims are there? Will we find out there are more victims just waiting to sprout out to tell the truth about this dirty ex-cop / daycare driver? You see, you don't know people. There's no such thing as knowing someone. Oh, I know him, I know her. She wouldn't do that. No, you don't. We all hold secrets. We all are sinners. Bottom line. As I said, maybe not a murderer, maybe not a child molester, but we've all done deviant things, said deviant things, done deviant things. And nobody knows what we've done until we open our mouth and told it, or we got caught. So that's why I asked this question. What else has Mr. Weems done as far as violating children, violating adults? Because as I said, he's obviously a bisexual. He's molesting a boy, so that means he likes the male genitalia. He's attracted to a male, be it a child or an adult. Has he been engaging in homosexual activity while married to Miss Weems or beforehand? I bet my bottom dollar he had. So now imagine finding that out. Not only are you married to a liar, a predator, you're possibly you're married to a bisexual man. Damn. What a web we have weaved. So you see, you don't know people. That's a lot to digest, is it not? I'm married to a child molester that likes both sexes and also a homosexual / bisexual man. Interesting. Now, I'd like that Marine to put his blueprint on that. His comrade being a bisexual or homosexual. Because I'm sure that's not favored in the military. I'll wait. Since he likes bragging about his friend. I know them. I was just around them. Well, he hadn't been touching your private parts, had he, sir? Yeah. I bet you're quiet on that conversation. Would you let him still go around your children? I had somebody mention that once before in a conversation, saying it's easy to say, uphold people, but would you let that same person be around your child? And somebody would say, oh no, I think we were talking about R. Kelly. It was a subject matter a couple years back. People aiding R. Kelly. But somebody said, ask them would they let him babysit their kid or tutor their child or sing and dance with their child. Possibly not. Oh, I like his music, but hell no, I wouldn't let him around my kid. Well, then what's the damn difference? See, this is how scary the world is. Aiding people that you do not know, putting your faith in people you do not know, putting your faith in people that you see are grimy. How about that? You see they're grimy. They talk grimy. They act grimy, but yet you uphold them anyway. Why? Because I got a feeling somebody can tell us some nice little stories about Mr. Weems. What you think? Oh, I believe so. I believe somebody, plural, could tell us some not so nice things about his demeanor, his extracurricular activities that ain't on paper. He's probably done a lot of nasty things behind closed doors with children and adults alike. Mr. Weems, what do you have to say for yourself? Touching people's children, raping people's children, introducing children to pornography. How are you going to explain that? How are you going to explain that to 12 members of a jury or just the judge, him or herself? Yeah, I had that browser on my computer, same browser used on the little girl's tablet. What are the odds? Daycare driver has an open porn site on his phone that matches the same porn site a little girl was watching. Do you see how diabolical this case is? A child watching a porn site. A child has no reason to be watching porn. For no damn reason. I don't care if their parents open it up for them. They're just as diabolical and sinister too. So imagine being a parent. Let's go back in the book for just a second. Go into your kid's computer for whatever reason and see this open porn site and you're looking like, what the hell is this? Well, what are you doing with this? How did you get onto this? Oh, Mr. Weems showed it to me. He did what? Yeah. The bus driver? The daycare? Yes. When did he show you this? What else has he been doing with you? And then voila. The child goes on to describe nasty acts with the daycare driver. Now imagine that. So let's be truthful. Both Mr. and Mrs. Weems are lucky to be alive. Because what did I say earlier? We can pop off and ask questions later. This is my child you have been violating. Give a damn what you have to say. You can talk and gurgle at the same time after I pump a couple of shots to you. How about that? And imagine Miss Weems being shot or hurt or beat up, drugged to death, all over some stuff her husband had done to these kids. She ain't got no knowledge. She don't know nothing about it. She's just blind as all get out. Imagine that. Because these things do happen. That other people get hurt because of other people's wrongdoings. So as I said before, both are lucky to be alive. And I'm sure Mr. Weems probably wished he had died. I'm sure he wishes he was not alive. Because imagine being a cop in prison, jail, for raping children. We know that's the ugliest crime to go to prison for. Rape of an elderly person, children, any civilian. Usually you're isolated in jail and prison. Not all get attacked, murdered in prison, but you get my drift. It's just not a happy criminal record to be carrying around, let's just say. Doesn't show you favor with the other cellies. But nonetheless, You're in there with them, as you should be. And I think the detectives gathered what they needed to gather to bring forth the charges. Because as they say, that computer and that phone don't lie. Indeed. And then the fact that you're a cop in there, that wouldn't be well received either, even if you didn't have the rape charges of a child, children. Checkmate. So it's double threat. Ex-cop / pedophile. You can't make this stuff up. Well, look at here. What do we have here? We got a cop / child molester. Damn. You can best believe that Mr. Weems would rather be anywhere but in a prison cell, jail. He was supposed to uphold the law, protect the civilians, and he chose not to. So no matter what he's done, haven't done, we do know that he is allegedly a child molester. So that's why I said it's no telling what else he's done while being on the force. So we will wait to see if somebody else has more information pertaining to Mr. Weems and who he is, what he was doing while a cop, any other improprieties against children. Shantieri messed up, like a lot of people. You put your faith in people and you will surely be disappointed. It's in the scripture. Do not put your faith in man because you will surely be disappointed. And she's not the only person that has slept with a pedophile or a rapist. Many people are dating people who are sexual sadists, serial killers. It's all the same to me. Because that's the point about people. You don't know what they're doing in their free time. You don't know what they're browsing in the Google search. You don't know if they're on the dark web. They're going underground into tunnels and garbage cans looking for filth because they're dirty birds. He's not the only one. He won't be the only one. Cop, no cop, ex-cop, new cop, old cop, retired. That's just a title. He's a dirty bird. That's who he is. He's a sadist. That's who he is. Cop, retired cop, it's just a title. Disgraceful black man / retired cop / pedophile. Checkmate. Prayers for Miss Shantieri that she will be released earlier on an appeal. I have no mercy for Mr. James Weems. The one thing she said in this interview that I liked about an apology, when the commentary came about apologizing to Mr. Weems for shooting him, she said, "I'll apologize to him when he apologizes to my children." Amen. But she's better than the queen, because I don't know if she really means it or not. I don't even really care if she means it or not. I'll be truthful with you. I don't care if Shantieri means it or not, because he's lucky to be breathing. We're going to keep this 100. He wouldn't get an apology from me for shooting him. Could I lie in front of the news camera and say I have remorse? I could if I wanted to, but I'm not in Shantieri's position. And I dare not want to be. Is she telling the whole truth about the motive for shooting him? Her feeling sorry. She said she felt sorry. She could be telling the truth. She could not be. Some people who are supporting her probably don't even give a damn what she feels. Because that's the whole point of a story. You're entitled to your perception. People rallying for her and rallying for children would say, he don't need to be alive any damn way. He likes raping children. Who gives a damn why she did it? Who gives a damn that she's sorry, not sorry? He doesn't care for kids. He's a sadist. The children are our future. If you're grown, you were once a child. And you became an adult by the grace of God because he gave you life, he gave you breath to become an adult. And everything done to you, said to you, forms your identity as a child, as an adult. So now you factor in some dirty bird's been touching you. Now you have to worry about being attracted to adults and you're a child, engaging in sexual activities with other people, children, adults, and also engaging in watching pornography. Because we don't know how many times he showed the children pornography. All that is now a part of who you are without your consent. Consent from your parents. This is why children become sadists as children and adults. So now you got to ask that question. Was he molested as a child? Now, most people won't give a damn. But this is why we have child molesters, you see. Because 9 times out of 10, they were molested as children. And they grow up to molest, rape, sodomize. And then they get caught. They're being accused. And now we shun them. But what happens is that, sadly, they act out these acts in childhood or adults. And now we want the worst to happen to them. It is a very sad and unfair situation. But we expect people to act as adults when they're grown, which means getting help for your thought process to not become a sadist. But sadly, people do not seek help, and then they become a child molester as an adult. And nobody cares that you didn't get help. Nobody cares that you had these dirty thoughts that were planted in you as a child. Because we're expecting you to act civilized as an adult. But this is why we have child molesters, sadly. It's because most of them were molested as children. And this is not to show favor to Mr. Weems. It's just to bring you facts that the sadist usually was assaulted as a child. And now we have to pray for the children molested. Because we have to pray they don't start touching other children and acting out the acts done to them by Mr. Weems. So you see, as I said, the rabbit hole is way deeper than just sexual allegations against Mr. Weems. The rabbit hole is possibly very full. There's demons down in there now. And you got to pray the demons stay down in that hole. Because God forbid they climb their way out. You will be talking about more mayhem pertaining to these children later down the road. Prayers for the children. Prayers for Miss Weems that she gets out of prison early. Prayers for her journey in life, that she can somehow move past this terrible, terrible incident and find some type of solitude and peace in life. Prayers for the journeys of these children, because they're the ones affected and they didn't ask to be put in that situation. Prayers to their families. And as far as Mr. Weems, I can't feel anything for him. Because he should have gotten help. That's on him. And anybody that wants to aid him, support him, that is your foolish decision, not mine. But I'm not aiding no child molester, no sadist, no rapist. Because he knows right from wrong. And the fact that he was an ex-cop, he's an ex-cop, that tells you everything right there. He's almost 60 years of age. He had time to go out here and seek some type of help or therapy for any deviant thought process. That's on him. I want to thank you for your time. I will come back a little later, either tonight or tomorrow, and bring you commentary pertaining to Sarah Boone. She is a woman out of Winter Park, Florida, who filmed her boyfriend in a suitcase and left him there to die. I will play you audio from the police interrogation. Please check out my video from a day ago pertaining to News Nation's footage of him inside of that suitcase. She filmed it foolishly. That is how she came to be arrested. We're going to chop up that interview where she flawed herself by talking without an attorney. And should she deserve a prison sentence for murder? Of not helping get her boyfriend out of that suitcase? Did she maliciously allow her boyfriend, Jorge, to die in a suitcase? Thank you so much, Crazy B. You're entitled to your opinion. Vengeful act. Retribution. Payback for being an awful boyfriend. Cheater. Was she in the wrong in not unzipping the suitcase? Sarah Boone will stand trial next month for the murder of her boyfriend. The commentary you've been listening to in this live stream is pertaining to Shantieri Weems and Mr. James Weems, her husband, who she has filed for divorce from back in December 2022. Thank you for your time. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $ Big Angie 129 Cash App. Thank you, Mr. Chris Thorns, for joining this live stream earlier. Please check out Mr. Thorns' content on his YouTube channel and community page. Please check out my community page for said videos and commentary of breaking news in this nation. I will be back later with Sarah Boone's interrogation. We're going to chop it up during the live stream. It is a bit winded. It's about a 2-hour long interrogation. I will bring you that said information. Please have a peaceful weekend. Weekend suggestion. TV series. It's about 6 years old. Get it off my mind. Game of Silence. I believe it aired on NBC. It's now playing on Crackle. Game of Silence. Please check out the TV series. It's a very good TV series. I'm almost done with it. Very interesting. Thank you for those who came into the chat today. Please have a peaceful week. I will be back a little bit later with commentary pertaining to Sarah Boone. You have been listening to The Vault. Excel. Thank you.